This is Aditya here.
I can't share.
And today we have a very interesting video lined up for you. Over the last few weeks, a lot of people have been reaching out to us and asking about really what are the options that you have after you've done your MBBS. There's a lot of options that people have been confused about. There's ways to go to different places. But today the essence of the video for us is that we're going to tell you about the different options that you have after you've done your MBBS. And the NEET PG at the end of the day is not the only option that you've got.
But before we begin and delve into the options deeper, let's talk a little bit about the Indian PG itself. Now, we all know that the NEET Indian PG is an exam that you give after you finish your internship. It is the entrance exam to all postgraduate seats, well, almost all postgraduate seats in India, and it's an MCQ based exam. We will talk a little bit about the pros and cons, and let me start with the pros first. One of the biggest things that I find an advantage with the Indian postgrad system is that time-wise, it is still relatively shorter than most other healthcare systems. For example, if you have to do your orthopedics from India, it takes you 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, you sit for your MS exam or equivalent D&B exam, and you're allowed to go out and practice. Whereas if you were to do, for example, the orthopedics training in the UK, it would take you 8 years to finish your training, and then you're still expected to do at least 1 to 2 years of fellowship further.
And that holds true for essentially all branches. It's not just orthopedics. Even medical training is at least 6 years in the UK as compared to 3 years in India. For any medical and surgical training is about 8 years or so. Whether it's vascular, general surgery, or you're following a medical branch like nephrology, everything is going to take at least 6 to 8 years as compared to India, where the basic degree is only 3 years.
However, mind you that this is a bit of a generalization, as there are things like the GP practice, which are significantly shorter than the other clinical branches, and may be considered.
Which is essentially family medicine.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The other pro being, when you train in India, you're exposed to much higher volumes than you would be in most other healthcare systems. Being a developing country, having 1/6 of the world's population, and not a very robust healthcare system, one can only do the maths and just imagine the sheer number of volume that you'd be coming across during your postgraduate training in India.
Absolutely, and compare that to anywhere else in the world, the patients that you see in a day is enormous. It might take you a few weeks to actually get the same numbers while you're in a Western setup. Another advantage, which we tend to overlook a lot of times, is the familiarity of your environment. If you've done your MBBS in India and you want to pursue PG in India, most of the people end up doing in the same states where they belong to or where they've done your MBBS from. And that is a very important fact, that it gives you a familiarity of the culture, the people, the expectations of your place, and how to interact with them really, because we've seen that people do struggle when they go from north to south. They have to learn the language, and it's a challenge when you enter your PG as well at the same time.
I think that is one of the things which is slightly underplayed while you're making a decision to change a healthcare system, and this is something you only pick up on once you've actually made the move and you realize that language becomes a big barrier, cultural differences, expectations, your inherent training, and being away from your friends and family and comfort zone. All these actually take a very strong mental and emotional and physical toll as well. And this has possibly been highlighted especially because of the last 2 years in the pandemic, where people have been alienated with their friends and families, and this has come to the fore now.
Absolutely, and just to give an example from my own personal experience, when I was choosing between colleges for postgrad to do orthopedics, I chose my own home college where I did my MBBS, simply because I was quite familiar with the environment.
Now, on the flip side, I chose something which was vastly different, and let's just say I struggled quite a bit initially.
And this becomes a little more evident if you move to a foreign setup, and that's why retrospect is a beautiful, hindsight is a beautiful thing. So you can talk about it once you've been through it. Another important aspect is, because of the sheer volumes of the people that you see, another advantage is that you do have research opportunities in India. We tend to overlook it, but if you are, whether you're in your MBBS or doing your residency, the opportunities and the exposure to be able to provide research is enormous.
However, take this with a pinch of salt, because while the opportunities are enormous, do you have the time and the resources? Depends on where you are and who you're working with.
Well, that's where the cons of Indian PG come in.
Absolutely.
And talking about the cons, for me personally, I think the most important disadvantage of the Indian PG is simply being able to secure a seat in the desired subspecialty in your desired college. That's a massive, massive challenge and undertaking. Just to put it in perspective, to give some numbers from 2021, which we got from the internet, obviously, there's 175,000 aspirants applied for NEET PG last year, and for a total of about 40,000 seats in the country, which is a vast generalization in terms of seats.
Because mind you that this 40,000 number includes all the government seats and the private seats, including the clinicals and the non-clinicals. So if you trim it down to say you're trying to do secure a seat in orthopedics, so there's just a shade over 1,000 government seats in orthopedics, and this is obviously including all cities across all states in the country. So if you have requirements where you want to stay closer to the house, or there are certain states or certain cities where you'd like to be, your options are very limited, and the ratios that you're looking to is sometimes as big as 30:1 or 40:1.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned, it is a generalization as well, because there are other factors that we all have faced and challenged in terms of our examinations in the NEET, or whether it's UG or PG, is the presence of quotas and reservations, and that, depending on what quota you are from, it vastly changes your chances of securing the seat of your choice.
And this only seems to be getting harder. And also, one must remember the fact that this whole selection-based system is based on one MCQ exam done one day in the year over 3 hours. So, and a small difference can make a huge impact. For example, if you knew at what speed does a mosquito fly, that could be the difference in you doing a subspecialty of your liking, something very sought after like a radiology or medicine, whereas to try having to do something like non-clinical like a pharmacy or a forensic sciences even.
Just for reference, that's one of our NEET questions that came across in our examinations.
I got that wrong.
Another important con essentially is the non-standardization of training across the country. And to put it in perspective, a person who's done MS Ortho in the north of India, in a city like Delhi or a city or somewhere else, his training would be very, very different from someone who's done post-graduation in orthopedics in south of India or in some other part of country. And there are many, many variables, including your city, your the number of people in your department, whether it's government or private, and the people you work with.
And the unit that you work in. And also mind you that it matters whether you've done it from a government college, from a private hospital, and to compare it with, again, say a system in the UK, where if you train to be an orthopedic surgeon, you have certain defined objective numbers that you must fulfill before you can actually pass and get your completion of training. For example, you're required to do 80 arthroplasties at least. You have to do a certain number of arthroscopies, certain number of procedures on pediatrics, trauma surgeries, and these numbers are uniform throughout the country, whether you're coming out from a hospital in as far north as Scotland or somewhere down far south as Southampton. And this ensures that all the people coming out on the other side of the training have a certain basic uniform level of training and the way of training as well.
And compare that to our exit examination, which by and large can sometimes end up being subjective, depending on who you've been working with and how your rapport has been in your department and how well you've performed over the past 3 years. So there are a lot of factors that come into play, and there is no objective number of surgeries that you need to show competence with before you qualify.
In short, it's a very subjective assessment, and it may fall your way and it may easily fall against.
Absolutely. Another disadvantage that we all do realize and notice is the low stipend, and it can vary from state to state, as low as about 30,000 or 40,000 rupees a month to the highest possibly being the one in Delhi, which is about 1 lakh rupees a month.
Yeah, and mind you that you probably end up doing your postgrads when you're mid to late 20s, sometimes even early 30s. By this time, a lot of people have families that they have to look after, their parents that they must support. They're trying to buy a house, buy a car, set up their lives, and to try and do that with a relatively low stipend and having working hours that are very long, very exhaustive can be a massive challenge.
Also, you have to think about the return on investment, the amount of money that you pay to do your PG, especially if you've done it from private, whether the stipend is actually, contributing a significant amount to your long-term goals or not. It's a very important factor that we certainly cannot overlook in these obvious times.
Another thing that also comes in again is the longer working hours. I think anyone who's had a discussion with anyone who's done a postgrad would know that sometimes your on-calls and your working hours can extend straight into days at a stretch, where you find yourself being cooped up in the hospital day, night for several days. And this takes a toll, again, physically, emotionally, mentally. And these things are generally a lot better in Western setup, where there is more resources and there's more standardization. Working hours are more defined.
And a lot of the training is led from feedback from the trainees, which is essentially the trainees guide their training as to their requirements, rather than fitting in a system where they are just expected to provide care to patients according to the department, essentially, which is the system in India. Another disadvantage that we have to think about is which affects people's decision making once they've cleared the NEET exam, is the presence of bonds in different states, which can be up to a year to a few years, and certainly it does make a difference. And the problem with the NEET exam is that a lot of times you don't have a lot of choice.
And the bonds can actually range from a few years, and if you're actually trying to break the bond, the penalty that you pay can range from something like 50 lakhs up to 1 crore rupees. And the sad part is that these penalties and these restrictions don't really exist in other career options like an engineering, like an MBA, but unfortunately healthcare is plagued with this limitation.
I think, having spoken about all of that, coming to the point of the video is that what we're trying to show and enlighten is that NEET PG is not the end of the road. And doing PG in India is not your only option. And it's easy. So our motto is to give you the right information at the right time. So it's important to understand and realize right from your MBBS that at some point in your life, if you feel disillusioned, that you don't want to pursue PG in India, or you want to explore other options in different countries, or if you want to leave the medical fraternity altogether, there are loads and loads of options for you to choose from.
There are more options than you think there are, and let me tell you that there is hope. Usually the limiting factor ends out to be the lack of information and the lack of knowledge at the point of making that decision. We tend to follow the crowd, and since most of the crowd seems to be doing the Indian PG or going for a USMLE or PLAB, we think that your options are limited to those. But the idea of doing this video today is something that we picked up from a lot of people asking us questions, was that there are many other options, some which we have already explored in our earlier videos, like those of looking for a career in pharmacy, looking for a career with something like the Doctors Without Borders, which is something a lot of people want to do.
Yeah. So just to list out the options, and mind you, this is not an exhaustive list. We're only touching upon a few of the options that are very obvious and straightforward. But you could, number one, other than the Indian PG, give the PLAB exam and come to UK, or explore other options in UK depending on what level of training you are. This is something that we provide help with. Other option is your USMLE, which seems to be quite a bit of a trend in cities like Delhi and Bombay, where there's loads of coachings available and information out there. We'll touch upon that as well a bit today. There are other countries like Australia, Middle East, Canada and Singapore. They all have their own requirements that if you go through early on, you can work towards and get those requirements and competencies by the end of your internship. Mind you, they all have their examinations as well that you have to prepare for, which are different from MLE and PLAB, but by all means, if you're preparing for a NEET PG, they are not a monstrous task as you may think that they are.
We don't advocate by saying that one is easier than the other, because they all come with their own spectrum and share of challenges and exams that you must clear, English and language proficiency tests that you must do, certain other requirements and tick boxes that you must ensure. So these are all there. But the point being that if you have vision, if you start early, and if you have the right guidance, these are very, very possible. These challenges can be overcome.
And there are other options if you don't want to stay in the medical field or just want to stay around it. There's obviously an option of MBA that you can do in different colleges, and you do get advantage if you've done your MBBS and work as a doctor, as an intern, as job experience in these
because
colleges.
business schools actually look for variety in each of their batches. Since a lot of the people applying for a management course come from the engineering background, they actually way on the weightage for doctors and people from healthcare industry actually transitioning into the management aspect. For example, I mean, I had my GMAT book and I was preparing for an MBA just before my NEET PG exams because that was my backup option.
Absolutely. Going into management, hospital management is a viable and upcoming field in terms of that, and India is not the only place where you can pursue it. I'll put the link below. There's a website that we came across, and obviously the Royal Colleges of England and Ireland, they have offices in the Middle East that do provide courses such as leadership and management in the healthcare setting, as well as quality control and innovation in the managing them at the in the healthcare setting. And these courses are accredited by the Royal Colleges, internationally recognized, and certainly they will help you in achieving administrative roles in India as well as abroad.
Yeah, and you can also look for careers in pharmaceuticals, where you can do it after having done your MD in pharmacy or even without it. Obviously, this goes slightly away from being on the clinical side. I've already said we can look into something like Doctors Without Borders. There's also careers with international bodies like the WHO. You can look for careers with the UNICEF and the UNESCO's. And there are several options out there. It's just about knowing how to tap into those options and what's the best way to go about it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the PLAB and your ways to come to UK. So essentially PLAB is the Professional and Linguistic Assessment Board examination, which is the licensing exam to get your GMC registration. It is the first step in towards securing a job as either an intern or which is called an FY, or even at a higher level depending on your training. PLAB is in two parts: PLAB 1, which is the online exam, and PLAB 2 is the clinical assessment. And once you've cleared your PLAB and applied for your GMC registration, you can actively start looking for jobs. The thing about UK is that if you're looking for a career in the UK in the long term, whether it's actually not just UK, anywhere, the sooner you start, the better it is. And not to say that's the end of the world. You can make the move to UK at different stages of your career depending on where you are, and we through our website and our we provide you with that information and help you navigate your way through UK through our mentorship program.
Touching a little bit about the USMLE, again, it's the licensing exam to get into training in the US. The exam has three parts: the first, second, and third. The first is an MCQ based exam. The second has two parts to it: the CK, the clinical knowledge, and the CS. The third is also there's also a third part. Usually, you can give these exams at different stages in your MBBS. However, a lot of people prefer to do it during the internship year or even afterwards. As again Aditya said, the earlier you start, the more focused you are, the better choices you will make, and the better chances you will have in getting to your destination sooner.
Absolutely. So a pro tip that I like to give to everybody is that from our own experiences or my own experiences, that if you're planning a career abroad, whether it's UK or the US or Australia or anywhere else in the world, and you're exploring your options when you're MBBS, it is wise to start early rather than late. And by the time you finish your MBBS internship, and by the time you get the degree, if you've cleared maybe step 1 of USMLE or part 1 of PLAB, certainly it will significantly speed up your progress to be where you want to be, rather than starting from scratch and from rock bottom after you've done from PG or or after having tried for NEET PG and not gotten through. So if it comes from a stage of motivation early on rather than a stage of desperation, I think your chances are much better, and that's why it's important to get that information early on.
Absolutely. However, just like I was, did not really have that guidance, did not really have that vision. I mean, you can make those mistakes, you can be at a point where you've not done that, but the idea of this video and the idea of this whole effort that we have is to say that hope is not lost. There is hope. You just need some guidance, you just need a little bit of hard work, and combined with that, I'm sure we're both sure that you can get to where you desire to be. And we've done some videos in the past exploring these options, the links to which I will put down in the description below. Please also do check out our website, which is doctorsinuk.co.in. Again, this is a one-stop shop for all that we are about, where the inspiration came from, what we do. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about the mentorship program. We all know, we all focus on health, especially eating well and working out, especially since the pandemic, people have become much more cognizant. And we all recognize that the advantage that a professional coach or a professional trainer brings to your general health. You could be eating better, you could be trying to working out, but the results don't show. Whereas when you try and do it under proper trained guidance of a professional coach, you end up getting better results in much quicker time and much more sustainable results.
Absolutely, and like I said before, our motto is to provide the right information at the right time so that you can make informed choices early on in your career, or at any stage if you're looking for a switch. That's where we will be more than happy to help you. Please reach out to us on our email as well, yourmentor121@gmail.com, and we will try and provide the best information and the best route, and find the best route possible for you given your personal circumstances. At the same time, we're going to try and be more regular and provide more videos and information with regards to different subspecialties and the training, different pathways of training in India and abroad.
And we're also on Facebook through our page. We will be getting on the Instagram bandwagon very soon as well. And we're actually expanding as well. So if anyone wants to link up with us, feel free to reach out to us on our email or leave a comment. And as you do with all YouTube videos that you like, share, subscribe, and come back for more. Thank you.